Hey, I kind of wanted to go over a couple of tidbits for rating the season as a tank. Um, I've got a warrior and a guardian druid, prot warrior, and that's what I've been rating with. But I just kind of want to go over a couple things with rating for those that might find it helpful. I wouldn't consider this high end stuff, but more if you've been tanking, like a little bit of an idea, more information, or if you're just starting tanking and you're like a little nervous about things, or stepping from LFR to normal to from normal to heroic, or so on. All right, so one thing I would do is you can go through and make sure your specs right. You can go on. There's a bunch of different sites you can go to. Obviously, like Icy Veins, Method. There's a bunch of other stuff online. What I usually do is, especially if I'm feeling like it's not really a good fit, I'll go to Raider.io. And then I will go through and look up, the top tanks and see what they're doing. And then a lot of times they'll give you a good idea. Do know that if you go into the websites, certain specific ones, they have a different spec for every single fight. So if you're wanting to do that, that's fine. I usually find one that I'm used to the cooldowns. I can get good damage off, and then usually, I can change it either single boss fight or I've got ads, and then just switch between those two specs. And that's what I usually do. I don't do them per boss because, yeah, no. So you can go to Raider.io and basically go through, and you could go you could just basically scroll down and you could see the top guilds, okay? And then you could easily just go down here. Sometimes it's just an added information. You don't have to go this route. I usually do this more for Mythic Plus than I do for rating, but it's nice to see. So basically, if you go in here, you can see their top tank. For me, obviously, like you can see their eye levels are nice and how they're doing well for themselves. But you can see the spec they're using, and then you can go through, and then you can see, what they're wearing. You can go through and click on their profile, go that route, whichever you want. Okay, so that's one route that you can see what they're using for those specific fights. Just an extra tool. I tend to ramble, so let me just keep moving instead of losing your guys' attention. Okay, so all right, so go through and you want to make sure that what I usually do is I watch videos. There's quick boss bot guides as a tank. If you get things quick, all you do is just dodge stuff and then get the main mechanics down. That dodge stuff doesn't matter. So you just need to get the big tank mechanics down. So what I would do is go through, watch your video ahead of time, or just, some people, like, if you're having trouble and you're with a guild group, just watch it real quick in between stuff and just be like, hey, just give me a second. I've got a 3-minute video. I'm just going to watch it real quick, especially on Queen, right? Because it's got some mechanics to it. It's not that bad, but as you start getting reps in, it's nice to kind of be like, okay, I could do this better. So also make sure you have your add-ons, DBM or bigwigs, and obviously, getting threat plates and stuff like that for a tank is really good. Just knowing where your threat's at, and obviously there's a whole bunch of other add-ons depending on what you're looking for. But those are some of the big ones. Okay, if you're feeling squishy, I would go through and look at your gems, enchants, your trinkets. Take a defensive trinket in with you, or a stat trinket that gives you some verse if that's what you're feeling. And then your cooldown rotation is going to matter a lot. Also, getting gear with the right stat priority helps a lot. People don't. I feel like some people don't know this, but you can put. Yes, it costs like 10K for a gem slot. It's not a lot of gold. You can put 2 in your neck and 2 in each of your rings. And then that's a lot of stats that people are just not doing. I'm going into these pub groups and people just don't have anything. Or they don't even have any chance. I'm just like, what? That's why normal is really easy right now. It's super easy to go into and kill. Heroic, not so much. Heroic, give it a couple of weeks and then it'll probably be a little bit easier. But people are going to require AOTC eventually. And you're going to have a hard time getting into some of those groups. So As far, and there's a big difference between having a pug group and then your guild group, because they're going to be a little more understanding if you screw up, right? But if you're in a pug group or you're just a new recruit, then you really got to kind of pay attention. And I would focus less on your damage, which obviously is important for threat, but more focused on your survival, because you got to be ready with cooldowns for those big hits. Obviously, Take Videos are going to tell you when those are for each boss, so you just got to make sure that you're prepared, right? So, as far as heroics concerned, big ones for tanking where you kind of you make or break, because if you don't do things right, you're gonna wipe. So bloodbound, line positioning is key. Is huge. I've wiped for so long with multiple tanks who just couldn't get it. Okay, if you're gonna be pugging, or even if you're going to guild, take a minute, watch some videos, learn it, put your time in, and you'll be fine. Once you get it, you're good. As far as Silk Run, the pool drops. Okay, you see it in normal, but it's like, all right, whatever. But like, it's so much more complex when you're doing it in heroic, because you're the one that can pull. So people drop stuff and mess up. You, wherever those ghosts are, you want to make sure there's a space when you drop yours. And so what you do is usually you pull yours to the edge, see where the little mirages are, and position yourself so your pool will be an in-between so your raid doesn't wipe. And I think now, because it's further in, people are going to be a little more forgiving. But that's, if you're doing normal, kind of getting an eye for where those are. What I usually do is I kind of back up, look at the room, and then I'm like, okay, I need to pull this out. Yeah, I feel like it's not a lot, but I think it's important that also that like your gem and enchants in food and consumables are huge. Don't be cheap. Go through and get the good stuff. Get your pants enchant. I mean, the boots are crazy right now in price, so I get that because it's not a big deal. But all the other stuff, like you just get it. Every little bit counts. Your oils for your weapon. Runes are great too. If you're being cheap, so that's not as bad, but you don't get as much stat. Bringing your own food if needed. Like, if you go through and it's primary stat and you're a tank, it's said that that's the best stat. It is. But if you're feeling super squishy and you're like, all right, I'd rather have haste and verse. Get your own haste verse food. What works for you, right? You got to find out what stat you're lacking. Because maybe there's diminishing returns on some of those stats. So if you're just like, man, or like right now with me, I don't like, yeah, last week before we had Mythic come out and Mythic Plus season start, I had great stat priority. But now that I'm getting a bunch of heroic gear, I don't have my stat priority and I feel a little squishy. I have to really be careful on my rotations, especially in heroic. Like, you get hit, like, even normal queen, she hits, man. But if you're pug lifing, it's so easy to pick up raids. I mean, as a tank, it's a little bit hard to get in because you get to join with a bunch of different groups. But like, normal's easy, LFR is pretty easy. As long as you know the fight and you have DBM to call stuff out and you know how to avoid stuff, it's completely fine. But heroic is different. You got to study a little bit in heroic, especially, as I said, the bloodbound, and then like going further in. I've only gone through and got Sikran down, and we haven't done any attempts on the other stuff, so I don't have enough reference to really kind of make notes about that. But that's pretty much all I got. I don't feel like it's a lot. Always watch some videos if you think things are rough. It's always good to go back and watch some videos. If your spec feels bad, then go through and look at different specs on different sites and find one that works for you. You can always just go in and adjust your spec. Like, I was on a queen with a really bad tank. Okay, under-geared tank. Let's put it that way. So he was way under-geared for there, all right? And it was a pug. They put the group together. I don't. It's fine. But I was in there to learn. I've already killed queen, but I hadn't done it on my druid yet. So I was learning. But I was having to basically taunt off of him like so quickly because he couldn't keep up with the damage. So I basically had to tank it like 90% of the time, had to tank queen. So as you're aware, you don't have cooldowns forever, right? So I had to go through and change my spec so that I had more damage reduction, an extra, last stand / survival instincts, and like I had to change it around. We killed it. We killed it. But I definitely was like, it was rough on my end. I was pinching cheeks. But you're gonna run into different groups when you're pugging, right? And it's more about the boss kills than anything else. You got to stay positive. Got to work with what you got. And if you don't want to be there and you're not feeling the group, then you leave. I mean, I'm not gonna go through and like get upset about it. I mean, it's pug life. It's the same way. It's like, hey, I don't feel like wiping on this. You guys, I'm all set. And you just leave. But me, I've always been like, hey, I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna learn what I can from this. And when I'm done learning what I can learn, and this group isn't progressing, sure, I'm gonna step if I don't feel like you're gonna get it. But it's right now, honestly, once you get queen down on normal, like, and you see the fight, it's really easy, especially the DPS that's out there. You could just push it over with multiple people dead, as long as people get the rotations down. So you should probably, definitely, if you're not doing it already, get into normal, get that kill, get that going, especially going into next week. All right, I feel like I rambled on enough. I don't know how helpful it'll be, but hopefully it'll be helpful to somebody. Feel free to ask questions, leave comments, all the things. All right, best of luck. Get some gear. Hope the vault's great. Take care.